Matthew, I feel like a phrase that has gotten quite overused over the years is the next Jeff Gordon, right? They once thought Casey Atwood was going to be the next Jeff Gordon. His career didn't pan out that way, unfortunately. A lot of drivers, William Byron being him in 24, Chase Elliott being him in 24, those guys have gone on to have quite a bit of success and won races, competed for championships. Elliott's won a championship in his case. But when you look at Connor Zilisch, you look at the connections that he has now racing at Junior Motorsports. Obviously, Rick Hendrick, a minority owner over at that program. Do you think Connor Zilisch could truly be the next driver to win multiple championships, maybe as many as 70, 80 cup races? Is the hype surrounding him justified here at only 18 years old?
Is the hype there? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to be the next superstar? Yeah, I absolutely do. But in terms of, like, I guess we have to define it. Do I think he's going to end up winning? Do I think any driver currently on the grid right now is going to even come close to like what Kyle Busch's cup total is right now at 63-ish? No, I don't believe so. It's just by the way the car's shifting, and then there's a lot more talent. I feel like I think you can look at the Cup Series grid and say there's probably 25 guys, give or take, that can go out there and win at least one race a season, which I think's phenomenal. But I mean, looking at Connor Zilisch, he's so successful. I mean, he's only 18 years old. That's appalling to me. You get reminded that you didn't do as much as you want to do in life when you see somebody that young being as successful and humble. Don't get me wrong. There's not one moment I've seen Connor Zilisch not be very humble about how incredible this kid is racing, especially Red Bull. So Joey Logano was a sliced bread. I can make a joke with you. Maybe I don't have a Red Bull can, but maybe he's the next Baja Blast, right? Just because he's truly an incredible talent. See, you're smart. See, no. I can't do the regular. I try to stick to the diet and zero stuff. But in terms of Zilisch, I was at his first Watkins Glen race for my job at Diorio Foods Incorporated. I won at a trade show. I won tickets for the whole weekend. So I got to go see ARCA, which he won the ARCA race. I got to go see the Xfinity, and his first career starts on pole, wins the race. Now, talk about crowd noise. I mean, they were excited to see that happen. And then I saw, obviously, Chris Buescher, best SVG. But, I mean, Zilisch, just his resume speaks for himself. He's 24 hours of Daytona winner, the 12 hours of Sebring winner, whether it's the LMP2. I know he's won a few ARCA races. It's just so funny to me that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, Zilisch has kind of been in the U.S. for a little bit now, and he's been racing in America doing stuff. There's a fun fact about Connor Zilisch. I assume you know, but I don't know if the viewers know. Did you know Connor Zilisch won a car store race a couple of years ago in 2023, his first pretty much late model season? I don't know if you knew that, Ben. Do you know he was affiliated with a team that's actually in the NASCAR Truck Series as well? So I don't know if people know that, but Connor Zilisch actually raced late models for Rackley War and won a race in the number 25 late model for Rackley War. And funny enough, his teammate was Dawson Sutton, who's now the Truck Series driver for Rackley War. And you can just see it's like Zilisch has been around for a couple of years, but he was so young that there's a lot of young talent out there. But this kid is one of those that took off and has truly become the next superstar. And he's, of the drivers that are under 20, there's no reason why he's not the number one prospect in all of motorsport for what he can do. So, and Chevrolet, also, it's going to be harder for him to fail. And I don't mean to say that like in a negative way, but when you have Red Bull backing, when you have great support system with Trackhouse, with Junior Motorsports, the Hendrick connection, it's like it's going to be very hard for him to kind of, unless something goes wrong. But in terms of, he's got all the equipment. Now he can just go out and prove how incredible he is as a talent. And then do we see him in Cup next year? Is that too early? I mean, we don't know. I know Ty Gibbs got bumped up the Cup, who he's an Xfinity champion, ARCA champion, hasn't won yet. And he's kind of on a down stretch. So it's like, are they moving Zilisch up too fast? Where's he going to go? Is he going to take over Suarez's ride? Is there going to be room at Hendrick Motorsports in a couple of years? Does he stay with Chevrolet? It's like, I don't know. Red Bull has a lot of teams going to Ford. Does Trackhouse make the move to Ford? Does Zilisch go with them? Just kind of throwing out random stuff here, Ben. I apologize. But I think Zilisch is going to be the next superstar. There's just a lot going on. I'm more excited for silly season, I think, just to see what happens with these guys. But, yeah, Zilisch, I would say he's definitely the next superstar in the making. And I think Ty Gibbs was the one previously. And I still think Corey Heim, too, on the truck side is going to be a Cup champion someday. It's just he's got to get into Cup first.
Yeah, well, he's making progress on that front, I think, with this new deal with 2311. But again, just looking at Zilich's stats here, to your point, Matthew, a broken sway bar, he almost pulled it off anyway. He was one corner away at Watkins Glen in 2023 from winning his ARCA debut. And then he won his next 4 ARCA races last year. He was a crash at Bristol away from being the ARCA East champion. Probably should have won that championship fairly handily over William Sawalich. Of course, some unfortunate circumstances took him out of the combo race that was the season finale for ARCA East. But, probably should have that box ticked on his resume. But I said it multiple times last year. This kid is too good for ARCA. He should already be running trucks or Xfinity or be up, in the National Series. Pole at COTA in the Truck Series race last year, finished 4th in that one. Again, had a lot of kind of up and down circumstances that had him have to come back from the back of the pack to the front there, and ended up getting a top 5 out of it. And then, of course, you were there, like you mentioned. He won his Xfinity Series debut last year, as did Ty Gibbs of the Daytona Road Course a few years prior to that. And then picking up the win at COTA this weekend. Now, again, like I mentioned, I think it was a bit of a stretch, a bit of overhype to say second best odds to win the Cup Series race in his debut. We hadn't seen anybody do that for 60 years. It was ironically, I think, the only guy that was ahead of him on that list in Shane Van Gisbergen, doing that in Chicago a couple of years ago. So I think that I didn't, again, expect Connor Zilisch to win this weekend. I expected him to finish higher than 37th, which I think he would have had he not had that incident take him out. But, like you said, I mean, there's so many superlatives that you can use for this young man and the talent that he's shown here. Again, you don't want to rush him. You don't want to overhype him. We'll see how he does this year. Now, if he wins 10 Xfinity races and runs away with the title, maybe Trackhouse has some tough decisions to make, especially if Daniel Suarez, say, doesn't win in the Cup Series this year or doesn't run particularly well. Maybe you would say, he's backed by Red Bull. He's got the hype and the talent and the sponsorship surrounding him. Maybe, you don't want to waste that opportunity or lose him to a rival team or something. Maybe Trackhouse would want to sign him and lock him up into their Cup Series program for the next few years. We'll have to wait and see how this season goes. But I think, and it's, again, like I said, it's not just the road courses. He was 4th in his second race at Kansas last year and then 4th of the season finale at Phoenix. So, the talent is there, regardless of the track type, I think. He's only going to continue to get better from here. Now, again, you want to talk about moving up too quickly. I think Joey Logano is probably the best example of that, of somebody that had all this hype, in the lower levels, won, I think, only his 3rd nationwide race of a time, and then Gibbs basically put him straight to Cup when Tony Stewart left. And there were some growing pains. I know he got that rain-shortened win New Hampshire, but, only won 2 races in the 4 years he was at Gibbs, and then ended up getting released from that contract, and then made a name for himself at Penske. He's done just fine, won a few championships in the years since then, and 30-plus Cup races. He'll be on his way to the Hall of Fame one day, no doubt. But, to your point, Matthew, as well, I think, when people talk about the next Jeff Gordon, the next Jimmy Johnson, those are guys that have win totals in 80s and 90s. You brought up Kyle Busch at 63. I know I would like to think he's still going to add to that. He came very close this weekend as well. I think he's going to break that winless streak at some point. But, I don't know if he's going to get much past 70 at this point in his career. And then thinking about guys like, Kyle Larson, or maybe the future, here with guys like Zilisch, I think even Busch's total, forget reaching, Jeff Gordon's and Jimmy Johnson's of the world. I think even matching the Kyle Busch's and Kevin Harvick's of the world is going to be tougher in this era that we're in. There's just so many good young names coming up through the ranks and so many good teams in the Cup Series. I think the parity is higher than it's ever been here as well. So certainly lots to keep an eye on here. But in the meantime, Connor Zilisch making quite a name for himself. Again, only at 18 years old, already a multiple-time winner in the Xfinity Series. And good to see him behind the wheel of a Cup car. And we'll see that a couple more times this year. Hopefully it goes a little bit better for him in future Cup starts than it did this weekend. But as for the Xfinity Series race, doesn't have to worry about the playoffs anymore. He's locked into that, and very strong showing from him this weekend, I think, as we all expected.